Okay, hello everyone, my name is Ritesh and today we'll discuss the current affairs topic, and today's topic is languages in code. Now this thing was recently in news, and this language issue was in news recently in your newspaper, right? And in this topic we'll discuss why this thing was in news first. Then we'll discuss the basic background of languages in code, how this came into place and what are the languages that are being associated with this, right? So we'll discuss all these articles of the constitution related with this, right? Then we'll discuss various articles of constitution in which they have given authorities over some to use some other kind of language, or if there is a allowance of a regional language is there, right, in codes, right? So we'll discuss all these issues and then we'll provide a suggestion over this issue. Then we'll discuss the Official Languages Act, because there's a much talked about issue of languages in code. So we'll discuss this Official Languages Act 2, because this is the basic jurisprudence of this whole thing, right? Then we'll discuss the language of subordinate code. The subordinate code, what are the languages that are being spoken in subordinate code, right? Then we'll discuss the significance of using English in codes, right? And then the way forward and what are the basically conclusion of this whole topic, we'll discuss that too, right? So let us start with the first thing, languages in code, why this was in news. So recently the Gujarat High Court has asked a journalist facing contempt of court proceedings to speak only in English, as that is the language in the higher judiciary, right? So Gujarat High Court has asked a journalist who was actually facing a contempt of court proceedings, right, to speak only in English. Because why? Because that is the language of the higher judiciary, right? That is why Gujarat High Court has asked this journalist to speak only in English, right? Now this issue came in existence, right? Why you are saying such kind of thing, that we have to only speak English, and what will be that, what will happen if someone doesn't speak English that in code, right? So this thing comes in issue. So now the language used in courts in India has, let us do a little background check and how this came into place, right? So the language used in courts in India has seen a transition over centuries, with a shift from Urdu to Persian and Farsi scripts during Mughal period, which continued in subordinate courts even during the British rule. So we can take example of Mughal period also, right? So in Mughal period there was a transition of Urdu, Persian, right, and then Farsi scripts used in subordinate courts, right, during Mughal period. Even in the British period also this has been in use during the British rule in subordinate courts, right? Then the British introduced a codified system of law in India with English as the official language. Then British again, this was happening from the Mughal eras, but after the British came into existence, the British introduced the codified system of law and in India, and says that English is the official language, right, of courts. Now, post-independence, after 1947, Article 343 of the Constitution of India provides that the official language of the Union shall be Hindi in the Devanagari script. Now, the Constitution came into being, and in the Constitution, Article 343 talks about that the official language of the Union shall be in Hindi in the Devanagari script, right? So this came into place. Now you have to remember Article 343. If there's an issue of languages in code, then you have to refer to Article 343. If there's a question comes in your exam that which article provides for the official language of the Union, right? So it is Article 343, and which is the official language. So basically the official language is Hindi in the Devanagari script, right? Now, it is also mandated that English language will continue to be used for all official purpose of Union for 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution of India, right? So, this also talks about that the use of English language will also be there for official purpose of Union for 15 years after the commencement of the Constitution, right? So, this also talks about the use of English language, right? Then it further provides that the President may during the said period by order to authorize the use of Hindi language for any official purpose of Union other than the English language. Now this article also provides that the President can order or authorize the use of Hindi language for any official purpose of union, even other than the English language. So the president has the power to authorize the use of Hindi language as per this article. So the main idea is that the constitution allows the use of Hindi and English as well for the use of official language, for the actual use of these languages, right? And if someone wants to speak in Hindi as well, they can do so, right? Because the constitution allows them. Because actually this is the official language of the union, right? Hindi in the Devanagari script as per article 343, right? Now coming back to the topic itself, next article is article 348(1)(a). Now this states that unless parliament by law provides otherwise, all proceedings before the Supreme Court and in every high court shall be conducted in English, right? Next is article 348 talks about that unless parliament by law provides otherwise, all the proceedings before the Supreme Court or even in the high court shall be conducted in English, right? So article 348 clause 2 also provides further that notwithstanding the provisions of article 348 clause 1, the governor of a state may, with the previous consent of the president, authorize the use of Hindi or any other language used for any official purpose in proceedings or in the high court, right? Now as per article 343, the president has the power to authorize the use of Hindi language. Now as per article 348, the governor of a state with the previous consent of president Now, as per article 348, the governor of a state with the previous consent of president can authorize the use of Hindi or any other language used for any official purpose in proceedings of the High Court. Now, they can do so with the previous consent of the president, right? Now, let's take an example. State of UP, Bihar, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh have already authorized the use of Hindi in proceedings before their respective high courts. And taking a cue, Tamil Nadu is also working in that direction to authorize the use of Tamil before its high court. Now, this is just an example that there are so many states that actually authorize the use of Hindi in their high courts, right? So one such state is UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, MP. They have already authorized the use of Hindi as an official language, as a proceedings language before their respective high courts, right? And Tamil Nadu is also working in the same direction over there. Okay? Now next is the suggestions with related to this topic, right? Now a further provision states that nothing in this clause would apply to any judgment, decree or order made by the High Court, right? This provision, a further provision states, next provision states that nothing in this clause should apply to any judgment. Now this doesn't apply to any judgment, decree or order made by the High Court. Therefore, the Constitution recognizes English as the official primary language of the Supreme Court and the High Court, with the caveat that when some other language is used in the proceeding of the High Court, judgments of the High Court must be delivered in English, right? So now understand this whole thing, that they are allowing the language of the proceedings that are happening in the High Court and these courts, right? But if a judgment is coming out, that will be in the language of English, right? That they'll have to use English as the official language in the decrees or orders or judgment. The proceedings can happen in Hindi as well, but the judgments, decrees and orders have to be in the English language, right? Next is, let's discuss Official Languages Act, right? Now what is this? Now this act empowers the governor of a state to, with previous consent of president, authorize the use of Hindi as the official language of state in addition to English for the purpose of any judgment, decree, order passed by High Court of that state. Now again, these like I talked about, this act, Official Languages Act, empowers the governor of a state, again with the previous consent of president, they can authorize the use of Hindi the official language of the state or the official in addition to English as the for the purpose of the judgment, decree, order passed by the High Court of that state. Now the High Court can also use those language if the governor of a state with the previous consent of the president allows to do so, right? So you have to remember, if there is something related to this happening, the governor of a state must take consent from the president and then they will allow this thing, right? Next, it further provides that where any judgment, decree, order is passed in any such language, it shall be So it further provides that where any judgment, decree, order is passed in any such language, it shall be accompanied by translation of the same in English, right? So if some other language is concerned, if some other language has been used in those degrees or decrees, orders or judgments, now the same will be translated to English as well, right? So if the use is being allowed by the state, if use has been allowed by the governor of state with the consent of the president, still you have to translate the whole decree, order and judgment into the official language, that is English, right? Now, the Constitution has conferred the right to justice on the litigant, which further encompasses that he shall have the right to understand the whole proceedings and the judgment delivered, right? So, under this act as well, and Constitution also says that the right to justice on the litigant, which says that he have the right to understand the whole proceedings and the judgment delivered, right? Now, the Official Languages Act makes no mention of the Supreme Court, where English is the only language in which proceedings are conducted, right? And the litigant has the fundamental right to understand and participate in the courtroom proceeding, as it arguably confers a bundle of rights under Article 19 and 21. So, Article 19 and 21 is also conferred under this act, and they are being mentioned that these litigants have to understand the whole proceedings of the court, right? That is why that's how they will argue in this court, right? Then the litigant has the right to speak in the language he understand before the magistrate. Similarly, right to justice is also recognized under Article 21 of the Constitution, right? So again, under this Official Languages Act, there's so many things involved in this whole process, right? And talking about the litigants, they have the fundamental right to understand the whole concept, and they have the fundamental right to argue before the magistrate to understand the language and the language, right? So again, the litigant's right is also being concerned in this act as well, right? Now let us discuss the language of subordinate court. ये लास्ट है, इसके बाद नहीं करेंगे आज, 1 घंटे का ही। जबरदस्ती नहीं करना चाहिए ना ये। Okay, so let us start with the language of subordinate court. Now the languages of all courts subordinate to high court generally remains the same as language as the commencement of the CPC, which is Civil Procedure Code 1908, till the state government determines. Now there are two provisions regarding the use of language in subordinate courts. Under section 137 of the CPC, the language of the district court shall be similar to the language of the act, and under section 272 of the CRPC states that the state government shall determine the language of all courts other than the high court. So broadly, it means that the language used in the district court shall be in the regional language as the state government directs. And also the state government has the power to declare any regional language as alternative for the proceedings of the court, right? So again, if you understand the language of the subordinate courts, there are so many sections of CPC and CRPC that mention the use of such kind of languages. They also allow the regional languages used in this act, right? So again, for your examination point of view, the language of subordinate court is not very much important. And because why? Because it is concerned with CPC and CRPC, and CLAT won't ask any such questions related to this, right? So this was all about language of subordinate court. If you want a basic understanding, just refer these sections, just that's it, right? Now let us discuss the significance of using English, right? Now, this is very general thing. First is uniformity. At present, the judicial system in India is well developed, integrated and uniform throughout the country. So, the use of language of English is very well uniform throughout the country, right? Then easy access. Lawyers as well as the judges have the benefit of easy access to the views of other high courts on similar language legislations on matters of law and constitution. Again, English will be the easy access for judges and litigants to argue, because if there is a uniform language that has been spoken in every other higher judiciary, then it will be easy for these courts or these judges to refer these languages, right? Next is seamless transfer. Presently, the judges from one high court are transferred to other high courts seamlessly, right? And if there's a uniform language that is English, then they'll be able to understand the same thing over any other high court too, because if there's a regional language in high courts, then the judges will be actually hampered due to this, because they won't understand the regional language of some other state, right? So this will happen. Then a unified structure. This has given a unified structure to the Indian judicial system. The use of English has been given as a unified structure to the Indian judicial system. And why? Because it will be very uniform throughout the country, right? It will be very easy to understand the whole concept if someone is very well with the language of English as well, right? Then is a link language. To a very great extent, we owe it to the English language, which has served as a link language for India, where we have about 24 official state languages. Now, if we come with the regional languages, there are so many regional and state languages there. But if we come out as a uniform language, English is the sole thing that is uniform throughout the country, right? And as an educational purpose too, English is very well been driven to kids as well, right? So English is basically a language which has been linked to the Indian system as well, right? So this was very general use of thing, and this was very general because I have talked about the significance of using English as in courts, right? Now let us talk about the way forward of this topic, right? What is the suggestions we can draw, right? Now, language has always been an emotive issue in India, and the spectrum of introduction of respective official language of the states in 25 different courts room large, which will have very serious repercussions to the Indian judicial. Now understand this. I'm saying that if a regional language is there in higher judicial system, it will be very difficult to understand. Why? Because see, judges are from various very other states, and they have been transferred from one state to another. Now, if there's a regional language over there, judges won't be able to understand that regional language. But if there's a uniform language that is there, that is English, then it will be easier to formulate these ideas or even understand the terms of the act and all, right? Then again, this will make a uniform judicial system, right? In every high courts, you know that there's the use of English language is there. So this makes a uniform Indian judicial system, right? Then the introduction of official state languages to the proceedings also directly confronts and interferes with the transfer policy of high court judges. Again, this is what I'm saying, that if a regional language is there, the transfer of these high court judges from one state to another state will be very difficult. Why? Because they won't be able to understand the regional language of that state. They will take time to understand the whole thing, right? Next is thus the move by the different states to introduce their official language in their respective high courts without having a discussion with other states at any level or making any effort to achieve even a semblance of consensus from the alternative link language in place of English will only create pigeonholes with judiciary of one state having no means to interact with judiciary of other state. Right? Again, this will becomes a serious issue if every other state will enact their own languages in their states, right? And that is why we are saying that there must be a uniform language over the higher judiciary at least, right? Now, the last point is that the channels of communication between judiciaries of different states will be broken. In that eventuality, the unified structure of the judicial system of the country will not be the only thing which may crumble at the altar of petty regional politics and lingual. See, the whole idea is that if a state try to enact their own official language, if they want to See, in subordinate courts, it is very well defined that okay, we can use these languages. But in higher judiciary, where judges are being transferred every now and then, it is very difficult to understand the regional language, and that is the whole issue. That if every other state wants to develop their own language in the higher judiciary as well, then it will hamper the policies of judges. It will hamper the application of laws by these judges, right? And that is why we are talking about this whole issue, right? And so that's all about this whole topic of languages in court, right? So thank you so much for this topic.